Good morning, and welcome to this Saturday's episode of In Real Time. I'm April Jackson of the Jackson Sewing Academy. Today I'm excited because we're going to be tackling something a little different. We're not actually going to do any type of alteration. We are going to work on my industrial sewing machine. A couple of weeks ago when I was working on the winter coat, I noticed that as I was going through some of the thicker areas, the stitching was skipping, and I had known that the machine was getting to that point that it was requiring some service, but I was just putting it off. It's gotten to the point now where I really need to address it, and I figured this would be a great opportunity to share some of the things that I have learned on my own. I'd like to tell you a story. When I was 21 and Duke the tailor was training me, Duke would do his own timing as well. Now you've got to remember that when I was 21, I'm 58 now, you do the math of what year that was, there was no internet. Duke, should the timing be thrown off on his industrial machine, would do that on his own. I recall a couple of times when he asked me to watch so that I could learn this technique. It was very hit and miss. He did not have the benefit of the internet, or I think even of a manual. So in fixing this timing, it literally took up to 2 hours just to get it right. When I took over the business and Duke moved on, he always said to me, should you be sewing and the timing go off, let me know, I'll come and fix it. The first time that happened, I called him. He came in later that day and he worked 2 hours on my timing. We did get it fixed. But where I was really frustrated was, first of all, it's in the middle of the day. I hit something maybe numerous times. The timing is off. And now I have to call somebody, hope they can come in soon. I'm unable to use this machine, and I'm at the beck and call of this individual. When they do come in, it's going to take 2 hours to fix. Duke never charged me for the services, of course. But as I got older and then I got to the point where I had more machines, or I just never even thought to do it myself, I was at the mercy of the person who had the knowledge that I did not have. If a machine were broken, I'd have to call somebody. And in today's market, to my understanding, there's not a whole lot of people who do sewing machine repair, let alone industrial sewing machine repair. It's not like I can pick up my industrial machine and take it to the local dealership. They have to come here. Right away, that can be an instant $200 charge just for them to come to my store. Now they're going to look at my machine, the time, and then any parts that may be required. We might be looking at anywhere from $500 to $1,000. And it's not really just a money thing. It's also the time that you are without the tool from which we derive our living. So I got to the point where I'm going to figure this out. An industrial machine is actually quite a simple machine. You have cogs and wheels, and this thing moves this element. It's not computerized, let's say. So I figured I'm going to figure this out. I've done a lot of hit and miss, but then came the internet. And then came other people who put their experiences on the internet that we may benefit from. And I'm not a big fan of hit and miss. I'm not a big fan of trying to figure something out. I know someone else has figured it out. I know most things have a system. It's not hit and miss. I want to figure out what that system is because I don't want to take the time. I want to do it right, and I want to do it right the first time. That is why when it comes to fixing my machines, I go to the internet, and if there's something that I'm not sure about, then I'm sure I can find it on the internet. Now, as we go through this video, what I want you to know is I'm going to show you what I do to clean my machine, some basic areas. I'll actually go through my little kit that I have. I have done maintenance on pretty much all my industrial machines, and that includes my industrial serger and my industrial cover stitch machines. I have figured out how to set the timing even on those because I've needed to. So I've acquired all these tools along the way that make this job a little bit easier. So that's why I have a lot of these. If you're just doing basic maintenance on your own machines, you do not need to have all these. But if you're doing a lot and you have more machines, it just helps to have the proper parts. Any job is easy when you have the proper part. A disclaimer, I am not an industrial machine repair person. I am not even a sewing machine repair person. I do believe there are a lot of maintenance elements that you can do on your own, and I believe you should do on your own. Even if it comes something like your car, if you want it to last a long time, you really need to do maintenance. There's a lot of things you can do on your own, and there are a lot of people who change their own oil. If you can knock yourself out, go do that. But if you don't try it. That's the same thing here. Don't be angry at me if things don't work out. I'm just telling you how I do things, what I have learned. And what I'm going to do is I will have my editor, when this video is complete, have a link included. You'll find this on YouTube with another of the videos that I have relied on that show a couple of these steps that I'm doing up close. What I want to do first is I want to show you some of the tools that I do use that are quite important. One of the tools that Duke always had and that I love to have is my long black screwdriver. And I always keep this tucked in my machine down in the metal because I'm always going to use this for something. There are a number of screws that if I need that little extra oomph to get out, this is one of my tools. In my tool case here, this is my tool case. I have quite a few things in here. With any cleaning, we're going to need all kinds of brushes. So I do have a variety of brushes. This is actually a makeup brush that is nice and soft. We use these to get dust and dirt out of our machine. They really come in handy, especially if we're doing working on a serger. Anyone who does work with a serger knows there's a lot of lint. So I have a variety of brushes, various sizes, and I do even have some really small ones for getting into little nooks and crannies. Just an old paintbrush. Don't be going and buying anything new. I also have some steel and plastic brushes, and I use these when I am cleaning some parts that are really grimy, but be very selective. I have in here, one thing you will need for a lot of sewing machines will be your hex keys of various sizes. And anyone who has a hex key probably knows once you get one of these, then you lose a few, so then you buy another one and another one. And that is why I have the huge bag of hex keys. I have screwdrivers with interchangeable bits. And I have screwdrivers of different sizes and shapes to help get into some areas, but also sometimes the very first time you may do maintenance on your machine, you may find that the screws and everything are tight. You're going to need a little extra grip. This is like a little tiny hex screwdriver. They come with the machines. I have a few of those in different sizes. I have these little things. They look like dental tools, but they help me get in and scrape out grease or grime. I always have pipe cleaners. A pipe cleaner will get into areas that you can't get into. Sometimes I have a wrench. I always have an extra wrench. One of my favorite things that I have in here are my mini screwdrivers. And these come in handy, especially if you're working on domestic machines. Anyone who's trying to get the plate screws out will understand that you don't have a lot of space. It looks like a super handy tool, and it does have its place. But the drawback is you don't have enough. If a screw is tight, you can be pushing and you're not going to get the grip that you're going to want. It's good, but it's not the end all be all. I thought this would solve all my problems, but it didn't. I always have some tape. The reason I have some tape handy, when I'm taking apart certain machines and I require to organize what I'm doing, I will always take photos as I'm going along so I don't forget. I do have a container where I can put all my screws and all my tiny pieces. From the dollar store, I invest in these long Q-tip looking things that will get into spaces for cleaning. A note, they look good, but they break very easily. There's many times I've used them. They're great getting into a spot, but then it breaks. So they're good, but don't go run out and buy these specific. If you have cotton swabs at home, they will work just as easily. Whenever you're doing machine maintenance, you're going to need sewing machine oil. And especially for an industrial machine, you're going to need to refill. So you're going to need a bigger, like a refill. This is 1 US gallon, which is 3.8 liters. And when this gets empty, then I just replace it with this. Anytime you're doing any machine maintenance, do not use regular oil. Always make sure you're using sewing machine oil because it is a lot lighter. If you use an oil like WD-40 or any all-purpose oil, it'll gum up your machine and then you're going to have a problem. It's just like with your car. You're not going to be putting any random oil in your car. If you did and your car busts, then it's your fault. Make sure you're using the right oil. And it is sewing machine oil. I got this from Wawak, and I think I've had it for like about 5 years. All right. I do have some tweezers here. I have paper towels. I always have something to dust. And along with my paper towels, I always have something that I can use for cleaning. I do have my regular sewing light, and I kept this on because I didn't have my flashlight handy. Having a really small flashlight in your kit does help, but I also like this light because it's magnetic and I can keep my hands free. One of the first things I like to do when I'm doing any maintenance is just taking my dusting cloth and let's get all of this dusted. I have my threading all undone and we're going to do a dusting. One of the things we forget is that fabric is very dusty. I remember I knew a seamstress who never cleaned her machines at all. So when I sat at her machine to do some work and there was all kind of dust and oil, the first thing I thought of was if I had any kind of a fancy outfit, this is just going to get onto my outfit. You really need to maintain your space and keep it clean. So I've got that done. A couple of areas that I will really focus on when I do my cleaning in the tension section here. There's a lot of dirt in this section. I can release the screw here and this will pull right out, which is probably what I will do to get a nice good clean into this section. And I've already done a little bit of dusting in the back side. There's not a lot to do on this side. We will take out these little plugs that are on your machine. If you can't get them up with your fingers, this is where your screwdrivers will come in handy. And once again, don't lose them. These oil plugs keep these holes where we're going to put oil. Once again, I'm going to pop them into our container. There we go. Just so we're not losing them. Oh, there we go. Let me see. There's there. I'm going to continue to take this plate off. I just have another screw here. I just don't want to get into your way too much. But this plate will come off so we can see the inside here. There we go. All right. And take all my screws, pop them into my cup, keep everything over. In this area, this is where, disclaimer, also make sure you have all your power off. I have everything turned off. Make sure you do that as well. Since we are going to be working inside and working on the timing, I'm going to take off my plate. Just so you know, I did put a brand new needle in. Whenever you're working with your timing, you're going to want to make sure you have a brand new needle. You'd want to make sure that the needle's new so that it's not bent, because that's going to affect your timing. I'm going to take my presser foot off. Get it out of my way. That in there. To slide this panel over, a lot of time I have to lift up my machine. I'm actually going to take that plate right off so it's out. Put that in my little cup. I'm going to take off my needle plate. So this is where my little screwdrivers come in handy. I also have extra needle plate screws. I have dropped them many times. I have lost them. And there are some things that are just not worth taking the time to find. If they're gone, just replace it. There we go. Lift up the needle plate. This is an area that you will probably find can be dusty and have debris. So we are going to clean that up right away. And if it is oily, then we're going to clean that up as well. But I'm just giving it a bit of a dust. And put that into my little container. Already I can see in here that there is a string, and I'm going to see if this string is stuck, and it is. Oh, I know why. I didn't take out my bobbin yet. How silly. Oh, there we go. I guess if you're doing machine maintenance, you should take out your bobbin. Let's put this away. Even your bobbin case can get a lot of dust inside. This bobbin case has a spring. And this spring, I'm not sure if you've seen these. I've learned about these springs when I worked at a place that we did manufacturing. When you're starting a stitch and you get what's called a bird's nest of string clustered, what happens is the bobbin can spin inside the bobbin case. And when it does that spin, pulls too much string. This little spring helps keep tension within the bobbin in the case and helps to prevent that. But as you can see, we have a lot of dust and debris on our spring. So let's clean that up and make sure inside our case is clean. This is where one of our weak, there we go. Cleaned up. There we go. We'll put our little spring back in. There we go. And we're clean and ready for another day of sewing. We're going to take off the feed dogs. They're the metal pieces here that push the fabric. This is where having a particular screwdriver helps, because sometimes the feed dogs, the screws are in really tight. One screw. When you're taking things apart, if you're concerned about the order in which to put it back, that's where I like using my camera, because do take photos of what the space looked like before, the direction of the screws, sometimes the sizing of the screws. The dogs are out. Sometimes what I like to do is just collect it all, because this way I feel like I've gotten somewhere when I can look at it all and how. Got some more. My sewing machine model is different than yours, I'm sure. My sewing machine model is a Juki DDL555ON-7, and it also has the Juki CP130. I have no idea what that means, but what I do know is the electronic part on the top, it allows me to do my front and back stitching automatically, as well as cutting my threads automatically. That is why I have some extra areas. I've got a needle, a thread cutter in here. It is a little bit different setup than just the standard machine, but there's still a lot of elements that will be standard from one industrial machine to another. Okay, I've got that cleaned out there, and I can see in here as this my casing moves that it's still a bit dirty in some areas, but that will kind of get cleaned out. I'll be using my pipe cleaners for that. Now what I want to do, we are going to lift up the head of the machine, and anyone who has an industrial will know that this, we're going to flip this back. At the very back we have a little peg that keeps this from flipping right over and helps to hold it in place. The only thing I'm kind of concerned about right now is my peg is not set properly, so it actually is preventing me from opening up my machine, so I'm going to take it out. Let's see if I can get this out. Yeah, there we go. I'm going to take my back peg out just because I need to flip this open and have it open enough that I can do my work inside, and I need to have it right open. I do want something behind a little so that it's not flipping too far back, but let's see. Yeah, I'm going to need something back there still. A little something. So I'm going to look into all my contraption here and see what I can find. I found this handy dandy little case. I'm not sure which machine that's from. I think I know, but either one, I'm going to use this. So when I flip this back, it's going to rest on that. It gives me a little bit more space to work inside. My oil is good in here. My oil is still at high, and I did clean it the last time when I did servicing, so I'm not going to change my oil. One area you may be familiar with is this sort of pan. When you put your bobbin in, this area can get a little grimy, And once in a while, it'll get filled with oil. So then if your bobbin happens to fall in the oil, the bobbin is done. So we want to make sure we're going to clean that out as well. There's always lint, never a shortage of lint. So we're going to get that out. And any oil, we're going to clean that out. I'd like to get a little bit more light into this area. So I think I'm going to move this over here so that we can, let's see if we can do this, so that we can see the bottom better. There we go. Flip you back again. I think that actually would probably work nice. You can see better with that. I put that like that, and like that. Okay. So I'm going to continue getting lint and everything out of this area down here. Use your brush, get inside, anything to get in and get it cleaned up. This part of my machine is related to the automatic cutter. I know you might be thinking I maybe should have cleaned up this pan after I did all this, but yeah, I will just re-clean it again if I need to. Use your hand wheel, the hand turning, to continue cleaning the shaft underneath, get all the dust out. This is a time too if you happen to have any strings caught in. I was called to a studio that they did upholstery, and their prime upholstery machine was not working, so I went in and serviced it for them. And one thing I found was they had tons and tons of thread all twisted in around the bobbin shaft underneath. They weren't doing any servicing with it, and that's what just caused it to stop. So I had to go in and release everything and get all that string out, and the machine worked great afterwards. Okay. Okay, I'm happy with that. And I'm going to use a bit, my little Q-tippy thing again, a little bit of cleaner on it. And I'm going to go inside my bobbin case, or the bobbin holder, just to kind of get, you can see how that's getting dirt out of there. Stuff I couldn't see myself. And there we go, the break. All right, into the garbage. That's done, that's done. I'm happy with how clean this is on the inside now, that I am going to begin working on the timing. And this is one of those things that's going to be a little bit challenging. I can't get you really close, but once I kind of get things set up, I'll do my best to give you a view. One of the things that Duke used to do is when he would loosen up the screws we required to set the timing. At that time, there was only one screw. Now there's two. So I always have one, both loosened, but then I just tighten one a little bit. It'll be these screws here. There's one here. And then when I turn my wheel, there's another one right here. As you're sewing, I'm just manually moving the machine with my hand. Your needle goes all the way down, as far as it can go. And there's a point where it's almost, the wheel's still kind of moving, but your needle is still just kind of in position. So it's going down, and it's going down as far as it can go, and it stopped. The wheel's moving slightly, and now it's going to start coming up. And as your needle comes up, this little area here, this little thing here, needs to be right catching the back of your needle at the scarf. So the scarf of the needle, if you're familiar with an industrial needle, there's a long groove side, and then on the opposite side, it's smooth and round, but at the very bottom, it's like a little divot cut out right where the string goes through the eye of the needle. That's called the scarf. And as the stitch progresses and that's coming up, that little thing that catches your thread needs to be just at the top of your scarf. The scarf creates a little hole, a little area, so that as the string's coming through your hole and up towards the back of the needle, that little space is where this little catcher needs to catch it. And I can see that right now where that's hitting, it's hitting right at the hole of the needle, the eye of the needle. That is why when I have something thicker, it's skipping. The manipulation of the fabric with the location, it's skipping. So I need to adjust my timing so that as it's coming up right at this point, I need that little thing to be at the right point. I need that, the needle's right there. I need my point to be, it's missing it. So this is that little thing I was telling you about. This is the little, that needs to catch the thread, and as it goes, see how, and I can't get close enough for you to see where it's actually hitting my needle, but I want you to be able to see that little point. That is what's going to grab your thread, take it around, your needle is going to come up and down, and see that goes around twice, then the needle is going to go right back in, all the way down. So what we need to do now is we are going to loosen the screws that are going to control the bobbin spinny thing, and then I am going to line it up so that when it is, my needle's going to be down a little bit more, so that when the little metal thing catches it, it's going to be catching it a little higher into the scarf. Now, another element you're going to want to check. Oh yeah, I want to show you a couple of things that I found out that will help us with, to know the actual needle shaft, that it's in the right place. And there is a way to do that. And I'm pretty sure this machine does have it. Now, this is too hard. I can't show you this too much because it's too hard to see. But on our needle shaft, industrial, there are a couple of lines. One here, and there's another one just up above it. Those two lines, what they do, and they're used for, because I knew there had to be a system. When the needle, you're turning the wheel, and the needle is all the way down as far as it will go, there is a line that right there, when at that stop point, the top line should be right level with this, like whatever piece this is here. Your top line should be right there. At the very lowest position, it should be at that line. Now, as you're continuing with the stitch, and it's coming up, there's a second line. I'm going to bring it up to that second line, where that second line is just at that sort of casing. And then that is exactly where my little catchy thing needs to be. It is hitting it there. So my timing actually is good. What the issue is this particular is a little high. That's what the issue is. Because remember I said that it needs to be up a little higher into the scarf? I need to lower my needle shaft down just probably a millimeter to make sure, because my timing is perfect with that. My needle shaft is at the perfect position, and the little catcher thing is right on my scarf, but the needle is too high. So what I'm going to do actually is lower this needle shaft. Some people may just say, loosen the screw, lower your needle. I don't like that, because then I have to remember every time. Everyone who uses my machine needs to remember that. I'm going to loosen the appropriate screw, lower the needle shaft just a millimeter, so that it's going to hit this in that exact position. And I believe that should fix my skipping issue. I'm hoping that's going to be it, because yeah, I'm very happy with my timing. That little piece that catches and goes in behind the scarf is exactly the right distance away from the needle. And it is, let me see, yeah, it's just a little high, I think. Yeah, so I'm going to lower my needle just a hair. Now, in doing this, one thing I do want to make sure you know, once we loosen, it'll be this screw here. This is going to be moving a lot, and we want to kind of contain how much it's going to move. I don't want it totally freeform. I don't want to have to reset it too much. You never want to do any more than you need to do. I'm going to see too the distance, because the two screws that affect our needle, the bobbin shaft, also control how close it is to your needle. And if it's too far away or too close, that can be a problem as well. So I'm going to loosen this screw, which is going to adjust the needle shaft. And I want to move this whole shaft down just a millimeter. Let's see, just so you can see how now my needle shaft is moving. It also moves around. So this is where we want to make sure that we get this back to the exact where it's left and right. The hole is right, and this is just right there, all the way up, all the way down. This is another way we can adjust this and make sure that it's in the right place. We're going to turn the wheel so that, see how it's going all the way down, And right there, it's like stops. That's where we're going to want that top line. That's better, yeah, because that hover. And then as it comes up to the second line, right there, we need to have our two pieces meeting. Okay, great. My needle actually is a little crooked, so what I can do now, instead of adjusting the whole shaft, I'm just going to spin my needle so that it is straight left and right, all the way up and down. That's where we want to be catching our thread. Yeah, and we're off just by 1 millimeter. So I will be touching the timing for this. I'm going to move this over, and we're going to flip this back up. And I am going to loosen my 2 screws, which will be, there's actually 3 screws, 1, 2, 3. And I think we need to loosen all of them in order to adjust this appropriately. So I'm going to do my loosening and then get where the pieces lined up perfectly and then retighten them, and we'll hope for the best. First of all, screw number 1. Let's loosen. This is where this screwdriver always comes in handy. Just a little, just turn it just a little. And screw 2. Same thing. Just a little. I don't think it's going to spin yet. No, because now we have this last screw. We're going to loosen it. I want to show you what it looks like when it does spin. So, you know, just a little twist. And this is what's going to happen now. You can see I'm turning my wheel, and this is not moving. I can spin this around with my hand now. That is what those screws have done. They've loosened up this. It also allows it moves in slightly. I'm not doing enough that we're going to have a lot of vertical motion. I just want it, the spinning, to be lined up proper. And this is where I will show you initially the old way I used to do it, and then I'll show you with actually up. So my needle, I gotta make sure I'm not going to hit anything. All right, I'm going to hold this. The needle needs to go all the way down, down, that stop position. And then when it gets to the second line, right there, where my scarf is, that is exactly where I'm going to want this thing, that little pointy thing, to be at my needle. Just, it's like like a hair away from the needle. So what I used to do in the past was I would going to line that up. So then what I would have to do is flip up the machine, and that may even move this before I even get my screws tightened. So because of that, I'm going to have to reset it all the way down. What I like with this too is the third screw, the last screw that we loosened, is the first one we need to tighten. And it's important that when you do this, you don't move anything with your screwdriver. It's actually moved a little, so I'm going to, yeah, there you go, because it's weight, it's the gravity that's causing that to move. Make sure that's back in place. And I'm going to very carefully tighten this screw, just even getting it into place. It's almost tight, but before I tighten it, I'm going to make sure. Moved a little. So it did move a little, but because it's not right tight, I'm going to move this into the position I need. Still moves a little bit. I'm using my screwdriver to line that point right up with my needle. And now I'm going to tighten that more. Take a look. See my little position lines? Needle's all the way down as it's coming up right there. And as that scarf hits right there. Still off, a little off, and that's where I'm trying to just get that right there. It's definitely a piddly little thing. Okay, I'm going to tighten my other 2 screws now. A little bit of a tighten, and just a little bit of a tighten. This is where now what we're going to do is put the plates on, and we need to do a little bit of a test sew to make sure that everything is working okay. So now what we're going to do is we want to make sure that it is actually just working okay. So let's flip everything down. Let's get this put back a little bit so we can check this out. I'm going to put a few of these pieces back together, put in some thread, needles all the way down, and as it comes up, and just checking before I put everything together. Yeah, I'm happier with that. I can tell that it's a little higher on that scarf. When the needle's in that position, I can see there's still a little bit of grime in there. I'm going to take my little useless Q-tip, put that in there, Clean out some more of that. All right, we are going to put our needle plate back first. Do our needle plate first. Get that into position. Our little needle plate screws, and I find it's always easier just putting them in. The vibration of the machine can loosen them, and then your feed dogs may become loose, but you don't want to over tighten it. They strip easily. Now we are going to put a little bit of oil before we go any further. I'm going to drop a little bit of oil just onto the top here of the bobbin spinny thing. Get some oil distributed. What's awesome with an industrial machine is it's self-oiling in a lot of areas, but you will see where we had our plugs. I'm sure the oil probably doesn't get up into those areas, so give it a little bit of oil. I'll even put a little bit of oil onto the fabric pieces that are inside here. A couple other areas, and depending on your machine, there may be some holes and plugs on the backside and over by your hand wheel, just to make sure it's well oiled. Anytime you oil your machine, you're just going to want to make sure that you've cleaned up any of the excess oil, because the last thing you want is to have oil get onto a garment. I mentioned I want it to clean into this area. So what I'm going to do is just use a pipe cleaner. Grab one of these. There is a screw here that I can loosen that will allow my whole tension mechanism to come out, but I don't necessarily need to do that at this time. Just going to get my pipe cleaner into the disc and behind. Be careful with the little take-up wire. You don't want to wreck the spring, because then you'll have to buy another one. And this disc, the whole upper tension contraption, is one of those areas that should you break your spring, you can just get a spring, but it's actually easier over time just to buy a whole new mechanism and replace the whole mechanism. It's not that expensive. This pipe cleaner helps get into little areas that collect dust. I like getting this all nice and clean using this. All right, just all the way up and all the way down. There we go. I got all that cleaned out. Still a little bit in here. If you're anything like me, once we start cleaning, if there is a little bit just left, I have to get it. All right, clean that out there. Happy with that. Happy with my oiling. Get that string out. All right, I'm going to put my needle plate back in. My screws in for that. 1, 2. Then we're going to thread up the machine, and this is where we will do a test, and hopefully everything works well. This would always be the step of fixing a machine's timing that would drive me crazy when I worked with Duke or trained with Duke. And it was because you have to put everything back together and thread the machine and test it. And if it didn't work, we had to take it all apart and do it all again. And 2 hours later, on a good day, it was fixed. Well, I don't have the patience to do 2 hours later anymore. I'll put my plugs back in when I am fully done. I'm going to get this plate slid back into place. It's easiest to do that by lifting up the machine. One side on first, and then yes, this one. That's on. All right, presser foot. Make sure everything's clean. Get the presser foot back on. Grab my bobbin. I'll get the bobbin in. And thread up the machine. I usually do front to back, front to back. Just make sure there are no loops or knots that will prevent smooth flow of your thread. Front to back. This tensor area. That into there, and now I'm going to get it in my disc. Presser foot is down, so the tension is tight. Anytime you're trying something new, it's just practice. So if you're doing any maintenance on your machine, if you want to practice, make sure you're doing it not at a time that you're going to need your machine. But a test we're going to do right now, needle down and up. And there's our bobbin thread. That's a good sign. We do know that it's catching. I can see the thread is a little oily. We're going to get rid of that. I have some old pant legs. I get really picky after a while, but I'm going to take the time to do my timing and set my machine up. I want it right. Let me see. Yeah, much better. There you go. Maybe turn that a little. Whenever I'm checking my upper and lower tensions, I always use a bigger stitch. Just makes it easier for me to see. The reason I don't want to loosen the bottom thread is in our initial stitches, the bottom thread seemed a little loose in the first place. I didn't want to make that worse, so I am working on increasing the top tension to balance out and get it where I need it. That's better. Yeah, I'm starting to see individual stitches on both the front and the back, and that's what I want. It's a little bit more, and I will be happy. So I say. Yes, much better. What I'm going to do for the ultimate test is I need to make sure it's catching when it's going through this thick area, because that's where it was skipping when I was doing my coat. Yeah, we are good. That worked beautifully on the 4 times of, this is a work pant. So let's add another layer just to be sure. I'm going to go slowly, but it might be too thick. Because sometimes my winter coats can be thicker. 2 more layers. Go slow. Even though the machine will go through really thick fabric, you still want to go slow in some areas. And that worked perfectly. No skipping. So I am happy I have solved my machine. I will put my side panel back on, make sure everything is cleaned up. Whenever I am done working with a machine, this is when I will want to make sure I'm using my grease cutter to clean my surfaces so that there is no oil residue that can get on any of my clothes while I'm sewing. I'm also going to make sure I'll run my needle through here a little bit, get underneath. I'm just making sure there's no oil in these areas, re-cleaning out this pan. Because I oiled in this area, I am going to make sure there's nothing coming through on this bottom surface here. Yeah. I always like to feel the needle shaft and make sure there's a little bit of oil on there. If it feels really dry, I will always make sure I add an extra drop of oil. My foot is clearly off of the pedal. While I do anything like this, I don't want to have any needles going through. There. Well, that is about all there is to it. It's not that it's overly difficult, but it's not super easy either. Like I will teach in anything, once you know how, it makes it a little easier. And once you begin to understand how everything lines up and with the timing, it's one of those tasks that if you're really dependent on your machine, it might be something that you're going to want to invest a little time into and to learn. So you're not really reliant on the repair person. Like I said, it's not always about money. It's also about the time. And when you do what we do in alterations, yes, it's about money because time is our money. So you definitely want to be able to maintain your machines, keep them in working order, keep them clean. If you can do something like with the timing, that's a great thing to learn. Occasionally, that will be something you're going to need to address. But if you make sure that you're maintaining your machine, and the timing tends to get thrown off when you break needles. Why that happens is the needle is going down, and then everything's going, it's in its position, and it stops abruptly, but everything else is moving still. And when you do that a couple of times, that's when things can get thrown off. So you won't have to work with your timing if you don't bust needles, but anybody who sews knows that that's not going to be an option. At some point, we're going to bust a needle. And over time, we will have to make that adjustment. But that's what I love with the internet. Do go on. I will attach the other video that I researched that I use where it'll help you understand the notching on your the needle bar here. It's great now that we can go to the internet and learn things without having to be trial and error. It takes so much time. Somebody else has already done it, whether it's someone just like me who is showing how we did it, or usually it's somebody who's showing a little bit closer. take advantage of that. There's always somebody who's done it before you. But other than that, what I'd like to do is if you have any questions, please do put them in the comments and we will address them through the week. But I hope you enjoyed that this time we've had together to clean and service your industrial sewing machine. And someday we will do a domestic machine. The domestic isn't as intensive, of course, but why I'd like to just deal with the industrial is there are many, many videos online that do work with domestic machines, but not so much with the industrial. So thank you for joining me here today, and I look forward to our another month coming up with some more videos. I enjoy the time that I get to spend with you and taking the time and showing you how I do things in real time. Thank you.